Hello. Yesterday I made a video about team value versus information in FPL. Is it better to do early transfers and chase price rises or wait for info? And I wanted to make a little part two because I think I overlooked a few things and I've got a bunch of new thoughts. So I just felt like sharing them. What I said in the video yesterday was that basically if you're doing an early transfer and you're bringing a player in, I reckon you got about like a 1 in 40 chance that that player will get a red flag in that window between when you do the transfer and the deadline. So you've got like a 98% chance that it will be absolutely fine. And I think that's true. But this is rough maths, but the thing that I overlooked was that you've also got the rest of your team to worry about as well. Like in the rest of your team, a red flag could occur. And so it's actually probably more like 1 in 4 chance than 1 in 40. And I should just say, my videos, don't take them too seriously. I tend to just kind of like think things through on the fly, and I'm like, I could make loads of mistakes. I probably make tons, so I'm just trying to think aloud. But that's my current thinking now, is that it's probably more like 1 in 4 than 1 in 40, because you've got the rest of the team to think about. You don't need to worry about your bench, because if you get an injury or red flag on them, you can usually just delay it, sort it out another game week. It's not so urgent. But your first 11, it's probably 1 in 40 for every player in that period when you've done the transfer and the deadline. So it's probably more like 1 in 4. So now that's still pretty good. You've still got a 75% chance that an early transfer will be fine. But it means if you do that every game week, every fourth game week or so, you should expect to get stung, is what I'm currently thinking. Again, could be totally wrong, but that's what I'm thinking now. It's more like one in every 4 game weeks. And so that's a little bit more squeaky bum. But so I was now thinking, so how do you work out whether it's better to go early than later? Long story short, my current theory now is that it's still better to go early in the first half of the season, but not in the second half. Because in the first half, those price rises have longer to pay off throughout the season. Whereas in the second half of the season, getting those extra price rises is less valuable because there's less time for that extra money to pay off anyway. So, and the risk of doing it is it's going to hurt you more. So that's my current thinking now. Do it in the first half, not in the second half. And my reasoning why I've got to that thinking now is because so I'm going to lay some back of the envelope maths on you and see what happens. So 1 in 4 chance that your early transfer will turn into a red flag. You'll get some kind of red flag and you'll regret it. So let's see. So if you think so you got to think, what is the value of getting those extra 0.1 million? How much value in terms of points is 0.1 million? And how much value in points is the extra info? We need to try and get a measure of these two things. And you can get a measure of the info side, because if you just think, okay, if the 1 in 4 number is right, and I feel fairly sure about it, I'm comfortable to go with that for now. Every 8 game weeks, let's say take an 8 game week period, you should expect to get stung twice. 1 in 4 times. 3 times your early transfer will be fine. Every 4th time you get stung. So you should expect to get stung twice. Well, a worst case scenario in those 2 times when you get stung is you just take a 4-point hit. I'm just talking statistically here, probability wise. You just take a 4-point hit. By the way, if you hear background noises, my brother's got his kid downstairs and they're playing Fortnite and they get nuts sometimes, so just ignore that. Anyway, so you would just take a 4-point hit. So worst case scenario, in an 8 game week period, 1 in 4 chance, 8 points. You take 2 4-point hits, you clean it up, that's 8 points. So how much money could you accrue in an 8 game week period? And if you think that you should be, I think in a 4 game week period, you should be able to get at least 5.5 million above the person who's waiting. The person who's going early should be able to accrue at least 0.1 per week, but usually in one of those 4 game weeks there's going to be a 0.2 swing as well, you would think. So Sorry, I always get out of breath when I talk. So that's 0.5. So over 8 game weeks, that's 1 million. So over 8 game weeks, the person who went early should be able to make about £1 million more than the person who waited. Now, technically, that million is probably actually worth effectively more like 0.5 million, half a million, because you have to, when your selling price, when you sell a player, you only get half of the money. And it probably is something like that, because when a player's price drops, that's £1 million that is automatically, you're definitely going to get that one. When the person who goes early and avoids the price drop, the person who waited is now 0.1 million down on the player who went early. So basically, that £1 million better off. Effectively, you're probably about £500,000. So 8 game week period, the person who went early is effectively £500,000 better off team value wise than the person who waited, but he's also 8 points down. So basically, long story short, the question is that 0.5 million better off, is that worth more than 8 points or less than 8 points? I think that's the question. Does 0.5 of £1 million in FPL, will it buy you more than 8 points or less than 8 points? Now, at the start of the season, if you think of things like, extreme examples like Chilwell versus Saliba maybe, or maybe not so extreme. Well, you could probably go like Estepinian versus some 4.5 Anderson or Gahey or something like that. It seems like a huge, you could make loads from that 0.5 million. But then there are other examples like Bruno Fernandes versus Rashford. That might even be a loss. I'm not sure. But basically, if you think of somebody like Saka and Martinelli, 0.5 million between those two, I think there's a good, throughout the course of a whole season, that could serve you. You could get about 20 points more, maybe. And at the start of the season, it is over the course of the whole season, because you will always have that 0.5 million above your competitor who waited throughout the whole season. And so even if you sold Saka, you can just go to somebody else who's 8.5, and the person who waited can only go to another 8 mil. So that 5.5 mil will always be there for the whole season. And so that's the question: is how many points does 0.5 make you? And if you say over the course of a whole season, and if you want to say you could get an extra 20 points from it, then it's worth it at the start of the season. But then in the second quarter of the season, now it's only going to be worth 15 points. Then in the third quarter, it might only be worth 10 points. And if you're taking an 8-point hit and it's only worth 10 points, it might not be worth it. So this is why I'm thinking, okay, first half of the season, maybe it's worth it. Second half, less so. And it all depends on how much you think £500,000 will, how many points you'll get from that. So yeah, that's my thinking on it. How many points does £500,000 buy you? The difference between Chilwell and Saliba and all these other people is seems like a lot, but yeah, that's the question I'm thinking now. And I think at the start of the season it could be a good 20 odd points. So I think it's worth, because the worst case scenario is 8-point hits. You get stung once every 4 times game weeks, take a 4-point hit, clean it up, 8 points. And you don't even have to take the 4-point hit. You could just leave it till next game week and do a free transfer, use your bench and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, that's my current thinking on it now. I will leave it there. And yeah, just remember, I could make loads of mistakes, so don't take any of this too seriously. Yeah. Okay. Bye.